Hi guys, welcome to Soul's Journey. I wanted to talk today about places to buy decks, and this is kind of inspired by Casper over at the Boy Diviner. He did a video on things to watch out for on Kickstarter, which brought up a whole host of issues for me because I have had mostly very good experiences on Kickstarter with a couple of exceptions. And he had some really good pointers about checking on past campaigns by creators if they've had one before. A lot of times you'll see it's their first campaign, the first creation that they've done, and maybe they've never backed a deck before. So that doesn't really give you much to go on. But in some cases, that can be a red flag too. I've been seeing an awful lot of creators lately who have barely started their decks. They've got a few cards done and they expect to have the rest of the artwork done by the end of the year and then deliver the deck sometime next year. And I'm just not going to back that kind of a campaign. There's any number of things that could go wrong. They could get sidetracked and never get the artwork done, and I've seen this happen with other decks that I did not back, and 2 years on, people are still waiting for that deck. I'm not going to name it. I'm sure some of you know who it is. There are creators who start making excuses right after the campaign ends and they get all the funds, and then all of a sudden, oh well, I had to revamp some of the artwork. I had to go back to the printer and change the book, or it's like it starts to be one thing after another, and pretty soon you're past the estimated delivery date. Now I grant you, a lot of these people who have never done a Kickstarter before are overly optimistic about how fast they can get a deck done and turned around and sent out to the backers. A lot of times they don't leave enough leeway, and so they run long, which is not necessarily a problem because things do come up. The printer sends back a bad print job and they have to redo all the colors or something, and that's fine. I understand that. And most of the time they will put up pictures and say, this is what I got back, this doesn't meet my expectations, this is not the product I want to deliver to you. And I appreciate all that. I appreciate people taking the time to get the project right and deliver what the backers are expecting. And then there are the ones who go on and on with the most ridiculous excuses. It's just one thing after another, to the point where it's over almost a year past the delivery date and there has been no hint that the deck has ever been printed at all. They've provided no photographic evidence. They've gotten apparently nothing from the printer. I said it's just one excuse, one ridiculous excuse after another. They just keep piling it on, PhD piled higher and deeper, to the point you're expecting their next excuse to be, Martians invaded and burned my house down or something. I won't name the deck or the creator, but I'm getting pretty cheesed off, and so are some other people. In fact, I pulled a card from my White Witch Oracle. This is the, it just came in a little bag, so I always forget what the actual name of it is. Let me find out here. The Crystal Ball Pocket Oracle. This deck was ever going to materialize, and this is the card I got. At this point, I think the creator has misspent the money and is just not willing to own up to it. I did back one campaign many years ago that The deck was supposedly due in 2012 and never materialized. So I'm starting to get that vibe with this one again. That said, I have mostly had excellent experiences with Kickstarter. Some decks, like this one, actually came in early. So that does happen too. There are some, you know, great creators. If you haven't seen the Tarot in Space, this is just a super fun deck. Oh, come on. And I did do a full walkthrough, so if you want to go find that video on in amongst all my other videos here, that's really fun. Take a look at that. So that's by Laura Loop, and she also she writes, so if you follow her on Instagram, you'll know all that. Another one that came in on time was the Illuminated Earth Oracle by Claire Mack. Claire just this morning launched like the sister deck to this one called the Faceted Garden, and I've already pledged to back that one. So I love Claire's art. It's absolutely gorgeous. With Kickstarter, it can be really hit and miss because this one problem creator that I'm kind of dealing with now has never created any other projects on Kickstarter before, so there was nothing to go and check. There was no way to know if they were going to be able to produce the deck on time. It just really is hit and miss with Kickstarter, because there was another deck that I backed that everybody knew the creator and they had delivered a previous project on time and it was all wonderful, and then with the second one that I backed, and again, I'm not going to name names, a bunch of us ended up reporting them to Kickstarter because it was like 3 months went by and there was no word, and the last that we had heard was their computer had died and they'd lost all the files, and you know, so you never know. Kickstarter is totally a gamble, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Just so other places to buy decks, eBay, of course, and I would be very careful about that. There are a lot of decks that you will see that come from China, and that in itself is not necessarily a bad thing, but look at the deck and see if it's a deck that's widely available in the US. If it is, the chances are very good that these Chinese companies that are selling them are putting out bootleg knockoff decks. They will say something like their version is full English, or the book is a PDF and you have to scan in a QR code to get it. Right there, that's just, it's a knockoff, it's a bootleg deck. And I will not buy those. Not everybody I know is as scrupulous as I am about going through established channels and making sure the creators get their money for their creation. I have reported decks on Etsy because they are also knockoffs. There is one seller who is apparently doing a very brisk business in knockoff decks, and I don't know if people realize what they're getting is bootleg. I'm frankly surprised at Etsy allowing this person to be selling all these different decks when Etsy is supposed to be handmade goods. Clearly these are not, because they're one of the ones that they love to copy is the Wildwood Tarot by Mark Ryan. For some reason, that is a very popular one for them to counterfeit. And there doesn't seem to be any way on Etsy to report these people unless you're the creator and you've been harmed by this person doing this. So I don't know what to do. If anybody has had any experience with reporting these bootleg decks on Etsy, I'd love to know. And there are sites like Wish, which is nothing but cheap knockoffs of whatever they sell. It's just, I don't know how they stay in business because their stuff is just garbage. There's another one that I just saw the other day, and apparently it's been around for some time, but I had never heard of it, and it's called Joom, Joom, and it appears to be another site like Wish. Another thing I would caution against if you buy a deck off eBay is any seller that says PayPal only accepted. I am not going to PayPal money to somebody in another country and they say they've shipped the deck. When it says shipped, all that means is they've gone in and clicked a button that says they created a shipping label. That doesn't mean the deck has ever gone into the shipping system. I've been waiting for one now since April 24th, and I messaged the seller the other day and I've had nothing back, and it's been like 3 days now. So I did not do the PayPal thing with him or her, I'm not even sure. I used a credit card, so I've got some recourse there. I can go and contest the charges with my credit card company as well as report them to eBay. If they don't respond pretty soon and provide me with a tracking number or some indication that this thing has actually shipped. Because, you know, these decks are not cheap, and none of us can afford to just, you know, throw away $30 or $40 or $50 on something that's not going to show up. And I don't want to, you know, keep these people in business, dishonest people in business. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to mention today was that, and because a lot of people have asked about this in the past, the Sacred Mothers and Goddesses Oracle by Claudia Olivos. This is coming out from Hay House this year, and I just got an email. She sent out her newsletter this morning saying that Hay House is going to have this out in Australia in September, and then in the US in October, November time frame. I know a lot of people were really interested in this deck. It's absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if it's going to have the gold gilt edging. This was one I got directly from Claudia. It's just a gorgeous deck. I'll just show you a couple of the cards because I have done a walkthrough of this. I don't want to, you know, spend a lot of time on it. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on some of these odd places, or, you know, different places to buy decks like Kickstarter, eBay, Etsy. I mean, obviously you can go through Amazon for the more standard decks from like Los Scarabeo or US Games, and obviously there's not going to be any problem with them. Los Scarabeo is a little late delivering on their Goetia deck. It was supposed to have been delivered in February, but of course they're in Italy, and Italy got hit hard by the coronavirus early on, and so they got locked down super early and couldn't do anything. I think the decks were done on time, they just couldn't get them shipped out because the whole country was shut down. There was nothing they could do. So, you know, we will grant them a waiver for that one. But this other one that I'm waiting on was due like last September, and they didn't have the COVID problem. Back then it was just, I honestly don't know what's going on with this person, because I've backed other campaigns that launched this year, like in February, and delivered in May. So when they start complaining too much about not being able to get things done, it kind of rings hollow, because other people have managed to get their decks out. I've got a couple of others that should be showing up any day now. So yeah, I'm kind of running out of patience with that person. So I don't know what your experience with Kickstarter is, but like I said, mine's been good and bad, and this one is just really rankling right now. That's my 2 cents on the whole thing of leap of faith buying, I guess we could call it. And one of the most recent ones I got was the Emerging from Darkness. I did do a walkthrough of this. This is by Robin Cole. And so we just pull a card from this before we go. This is very pretty. It's got the lovely silver edging, but it is kind of coming off. It's like I end up with sparkly hands every time I shuffle with it. So if anybody knows how to, seal the edges so it doesn't do that, if you've got any suggestions, feel free to leave them down below. I would love to know. I was thinking about Mod Podge, but I don't want anything that's going to really like gunk up the edges and make it thick. So I don't know what to do. Oh, very nice. I wish we'd get some sun here. Seem to be having an Alaskan summer this year in Oregon. It's been in the 60s and cloudy for days. And it's, July, what is today, the 7th? July 7th. And it's still like, it feels more like autumn than summer. So I hope you're having better weather wherever you are. And love to hear from you what your experiences with various sellers and backing campaigns has been. And I will talk to you soon. Blessed be.